to another edition of the AfterBuzz. What's going on over here? Things are flying across the room. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing great. It is Wednesday, September 19th. Thanks for joining us. Hope all is well. We had a good show today. Everything was fun. We got stuck on a WWE poem that Lisa thought was easy. That apparently was not. I didn't know who the hell it was, but I also don't follow wrestling too much. If you're joining us here on YouTube, greetings. How you doing? You can get involved in the YouTube chat if you would like. If you're checking this out as a podcast, like after the fact on iTunes or Google Play, you are more than welcome to join us in the YouTube chat live every Wednesday at 10:30. Just find the KLAQ YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can join us right there. Make sure you got the notifications turned on, and it'll fire off a notification to you to let you know that we're on live for the AfterBuzz, which comes after Butt Stuff Radio, apparently. And I'm really happy that that thing is taken off. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I just typed it in there because somebody had randomly said, what's Buzz's screen name on the YouTube chat? It's Buzz Adams. But I just randomly put in it's Butt Stuff 69. And so what I'm thinking is we might have to do some stuff with the butt stuff at some point. So I'm not sure quite yet what, but this thing ain't dying. I'll tell you that. But anyway, so let's get to this week's AfterBuzz and all of the glorious things that we need to get to. We'll be talking some football today. We'll be talking the NHL, which I believe the preseason has already started in the NHL. We will also delve into people who share memes, which then will lead right into fake news, and then a news story that I found about some students who are protesting having to give presentations. I am going to warn right now that I have been trying to fact check the story, but whether or not the story is fact checked, it's really not dependent on what we're going to cover in today's AfterBuzz. Kind of yes and kind of no, but we'll get to that here in a bit. But first and foremost, let's talk some football. We had week 2 this past weekend in the NFL. And a lot of people, it's like, so I'm a Patriots fan, and one of my good buddies is also a Patriots fan. He and I text constantly throughout the football season, moves that are being made. I was taking a nap, so I first found out that the Patriots had traded for Josh Gordon from him because he sent me a text about it. And like any moves and stuff like that. And man, he's become that sad sack Patriots fan who I gotta constantly talk off the ledge. Like, he's really gets into this shit, and he's one of those knee jerk reaction guys who are really quick to if they, like, the Patriots lost to the Jaguars on Sunday, and it was a rough loss. I didn't get to watch the game, but from what I could tell, the Patriots did not look good at all. Like, they got their butts kicked. And he's immediately talking about, oh, Belichick has lost the team. Him as a GM, he's been awful, and just immediately talking about, like, oh, how could he traded Garoppolo, and now we got a 41-year-old Brady, and there's no wide receivers. We traded Brandon Cooks, and like just all this shit going on, and it's like, dude, like, pump the brakes, man. Like, there's a reason this team has been successful for almost 20 years. That's unheard of in the NFL. You do have your teams that are consistently towards the top, which would be like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could kind of put the Baltimore Ravens up there, the Green Bay Packers. These are some teams that are pretty consistently doing well in the NFL. Like, they don't find long stretches of terrible years, but at least recently. But they do have their down years. I mean, you've got like the good long stretch, and then all of a sudden, there will be like 1, 2, or 3 years in a row where they kind of stink. They got to get the high draft picks, and then they're able to build back up. The Patriots have been consistently on the top for almost 20 years now because of how Bill Belichick runs things. This is like one of the things I keep having to share with him and with other people too, is if you go back to last season, the Chiefs beat the Patriots in New England to start off the season. And like, this was a year where people were talking about the Patriots possibly going undefeated again because of the people that they had brought in and the people that they had signed that offseason off of a Super Bowl winning team. clearly that didn't work out that way. They made the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Eagles. That defense was very suspect. But by week 2 of last year, the Kansas City Chiefs were the hottest thing. What's one of the hottest things right now again? The Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And I don't want to take anything away from what they're doing, but I'm just saying, like, pump the brakes on that train here a little bit, because it's not like that's not something that you can tell week 2. It's not going to be the same team week 5, week 8, week 10, week 16, or even into the playoffs if your team makes it there. There's not a chance that those teams are going to be those same teams. And I have some other examples of that as well. The other one coming from the New England Patriots. Back in 2014, they started off the season losing to the Miami Dolphins. Okay? Then they beat the Vikings. They beat the Raiders. And then in week 4, remember this one, the Chiefs blew the doors off of the Patriots, 41-14. Now, if you look it up, this is where Trent Dilfer famously came in and said, they're not good anymore. Well, he put his foot in his mouth a little bit. The Patriots that season ended up going 12-4, and they won the Super Bowl. That was the year that they beat the Seattle Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. But by week 4, people had already written that team off because they were sitting at 2-2, and they'd just gotten the absolute snot kicked out of them by the Kansas City Chiefs. That was also what led to the very famous Bill Belichick quote, "We're on to Cincinnati," because then the following week, they went into Cincinnati, and they beat the snot out of Cincinnati 43-17. Another example, we're going to stray away from the Patriots just to show that, I'm not only going to use the Patriots as examples here, but if you look at the 2012-2013 Baltimore Ravens, okay? They did pretty stinking good for most of the season. However, they lost 4 of their last 5 games. And at the end of that season, people were talking about now that team was done. They might squeak into the playoffs, but there's not a chance they're going to do anything in the playoffs because they lost 4 or 5. They lost to the Steelers, then to the Redskins, then to the Broncos. They beat the Giants, then they lost to the Bengals. But then they just kind of pulled everything together in the playoffs. They ended up going through Indianapolis in the wild card round. They beat the Broncos in the divisional round. They beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship. And then that was the year they beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So even then, that late in the season, you're talking weeks 13, 14, 15, and into 17 losing and still being able to put it together by the time you reach the playoffs. And they played in the wild card round. They didn't have a bye week. So it's just I understand how fans get, but you can't immediately judge all of this stuff, especially in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, because there's not a chance that team's going to be the same team. Things gel differently. Players get hurt. You just need to just pump the brakes a little bit and let things kind of play out as they are. And that's what I constantly have to tell my one friend about the Patriots, because he's so quick to jump on, the Patriots and how, like if they lose, it's the end of the goddamn world. And he even made the comment to me earlier this week about how, he kind of can't wait until like Bill Belichick's tenure is done, because then we'll bring in big name free agents. And I'm like, so you're willing to trade the 20 years of success, the 5 Super Bowl victories, the 8 Super Bowl appearances, just because you want a big name free agent? The Patriots have tried big name free agents. Remember, they signed Adalius Thomas from the Baltimore Ravens, and he flopped. He didn't work out. So it's not that they don't bring him in. It's just sometimes they don't work out. But yeah, so it's just when it comes to the NFL, you really got to give it time and let things kind of play themselves out. And everybody's really quick, especially when it comes to the Patriots. Oh, the era is done. And it might be. I mean, I don't know. Like, this could be just an absolutely, a god-awful team that goes 10-6 or 9-7, God forbid. And then they for some reason they don't make the playoffs. The only time they haven't made the playoffs since 2001, no, I take it back, because they missed it also in I believe it was 2003, in between a couple other Super Bowls, or 2002, was when Brady tore his ACL. They still went 11-5, but they lost the tiebreakers. The Miami Dolphins won the tiebreaker that gave them the AFC East division. That was the only time that they have not made the playoffs. It's one of those things where you just kind of got to, give it time. Everything will play itself out. But another thing here, we're going to keep kind of on the sports topic, is NHL, the National Hockey League. I've kind of my sports viewing habits have changed. When I was a kid, I watched baseball all the time, all summer long, man. Like that's what I watched. I played baseball. I watched baseball. It was WGN and TBS. I watched a lot of Braves and Cubs because that was what was on, especially Cubs during the day. Um, and that's what I played baseball through high school. I watched a lot of basketball in the '90s into the 2000s because I'm a Blazers fan. So watching those teams consistently let me down was just, it was awesome. It made me feel great. Um, but I watched a lot of basketball at that point, and then for a few years I wasn't watching a lot of sports. I followed along, but I wasn't watching a whole lot. And then I really got into football, probably mid 2000s. I watched it a bunch as a kid and through the 90s, but then I really got into it in the 2000s because I had more time because basketball took a backseat and baseball took a backseat because to me those sports got super boring. Like basketball doesn't impress me now. I'm still a Blazers fan. I'll still root for the Blazers. I'll still watch the Blazers when they're on TV. But trying to watch other teams play, I think it was either this past Christmas or the previous Christmas, I was trying to watch the Cavs Warriors game. Holy fuck, that thing was boring the hell out of me. Like it did not interest me whatsoever. The style of play, everything, the amount of foul calls, it's boring as shit. And I could not stand it. So really, the only thing that's going to keep me, can't kind of keep me going, is the Trailblazers in regards to when it comes to basketball. I mean, that's about it. Um, but what I do need is I've kind of moved on now. So I still follow football. I'll still follow the Patriots and the Ducks in regards to football. I do still follow baseball and basketball. Like I check the scores on my teams, but I just don't watch it really. But I want to get into the NHL, and I've already gotten into Premier League soccer this year. Last year, I picked Manchester United in a bet with my fiance. I think I won the bet because it was just whoever was higher in the standings. And then this year, I specifically went with um, Liverpool. Um, it should be whatchamacallit, Mo Salah. Like I remember, I watched a game last year, and this guy looked just head and shoulders above everybody else down there on the field, and or the pitch. Sorry, and like the guy just amazed the crap out of me. And that was Mo Salah, so I became a Liverpool fan. But what I need from you guys, and you guys can message me, you can shoot me emails. But I don't want you to just blurt out team names. Like I can't just have a team name. I need a reason to back a specific NHL team. So if you want to email me, you can. It's brandon.coates. That's COATES at buzzadamshow.com. No, not buttstuff69show.com. buzzadamshow.com. Actually, no, I take it back. No, it's at townsquaremedia.com. I just rambled right through that. Brandon.coates, COATES, at townsquaremedia.com. Shoot me an email or hit us up on Facebook. And I want to have, like, you need to give a valid reason. Like, I want to give like a reason to root for an NHL team this season. And hopefully, here in a couple of weeks before the regular season starts, I'll be able to have a team picked and kind of have an interest in watching the in NHL a little bit more than I do. But another thing that I like about the NHL is the fact that I don't have a team. I can just flip on a game and there's like no pressure. Like when I watch the NFL, there's teams that you either like or don't like. If it's an AFC team or an AFC East team, then you're kind of looking at how it's like, what's it going to do to the playoff standings and all this other crap and stuff like that. And it's just, it's one of those situations where, like when it comes to like the other sports where I have a vested interest in a team, you watch the sport completely differently than a sport where you don't have a vested interest. So while I'll root for a team, depending on what kind of messages I get for the NHL, I'm still sticking with my no team because I like watching hockey. I think it's a fun sport to watch, and game sevens in the Stanley Cup playoffs are arguably the most exciting things in sports to watch. The game sevens are just, they're amazing. But anyway, so then we'll move on here, and so we'll talk about memes, and we kind of brought this up on the show today. where we were talking about. Here, let me check in on the chat here really quick because Prince Chaos is pissing and moaning about the sports talk. Clearly, he doesn't see the topics that we're going to cover today. If you want to complain about the sports talk, then fucking go away. Like, I literally just put it there, and we're going to get to other topics. God, you guys are so goddamn fucking fickle sometimes. There's people telling like other things. Vegas Golden Knights. That's one I've gotten a lot. Is one of the teams that I should probably look into being a fan of. Is the Golden Knights. I was rooting for them in the Stanley Cup Finals last year when they were in it. But are we going to talk about butt stuff? I'm not sure what you want me to talk about when it comes to butt stuff, other than the fact that it Buzz's new nickname, and it's great, it's glorious, and we're going to do a lot of fun things with it. We're going to do fun things with butt stuff. But anyway, so let's move on to memes here. It's something we talked about on the show today, and it had to do with that Anderson Cooper meme, and then the Weather Channel reporter who makes it look like he's kind of being blown in the wind. Like you could tell that the dude for the Weather Channel was kind of overselling it. But the one thing that a lot of people weren't pointing out when it came to that story, well, I'm not really validating just how much they were selling how windy that was when you got the two people walking behind him. It's one of those things where when you get the winds that are kicking up, if you're just standing, it can be difficult to stand. If you're walking in the same direction that the wind is blowing, you look like it's like the wind doesn't seem to be as much or be as difficult to kind of maneuver around. And I think that's something that got kind of missed on that one. But the thing that we were talking about was the Anderson Cooper one where he's in waist deep water and he fucking explains this thing on the air. Like he literally says, this is what we're doing. And he shows live fucking footage of him showing like, this is what the road looks like. This is why I'm standing here. He even makes fun of himself. He's like, so I'm an idiot standing in waist deep water. So no, they're like, and the fact that people still see it this way, and that's what I was telling Buzz earlier, is that there was two kinds of people like that. You had the two kinds of people. One, it's just trolls. There's just a straight up trolls who aren't going to give a shit. And if you have any questions about this, just go to our Facebook page. You can go to either the KLAQ Facebook page or the Buzz Adams Morning Show Facebook page. Either one, you're going to see the trolls who immediately call out with, KLAQ needs to stay out of politics. It's not a political post, you shithead. Pull your head out of your ass. Like, it's not. Like, it's literally just showing, like, hey, you dumbasses are seeing this thing that's not really there. You're making stuff up. You are the fake news. But they don't want to see that. And then there are people who legitimately think it is fake news. And that's the problem. Like, the trolls, hey, fuck it, whatever. You guys are going to do what you need to do. But when it comes to the people who legitimately, for some reason, think, like, that this stuff is being manufactured, that's not the truth. The Anderson Cooper thing, it was not the truth. And that's all that we were talking about. And that's all that I put in my post. But for some reason, like everybody has to bring all this stuff up. So if you don't believe me, watch the goddamn video. And we even talked about this on the show. Lisa brought this up where you get the people who just read a headline. And that's all they do. They just read the headline and they move on. And that's, to them, that's the whole story. You can't do that. Like, you have to actually get the whole picture of what the hell is going on. And that's the problem with being able to share things so quickly on social media and being able to just like click share and poof, there it goes. Oh, and it fits my rhetoric. And that's the thing that irritates the living crap out of me. Both sides do this, so don't think, oh, you're bashing Trump or, oh, you're bashing Obama or whoever. I don't fucking care. They're all idiots. That everybody lies, some more than others, so you can't hide behind that. But the honest truth is, you need to be able to weed through this, and you need to be wanting to look for the truth. And I think we've lost that at this point, especially when it comes to social media and how quickly we're able to share things. You have it to where people don't want to find the truth. They want to find the facts that fill their storyline or their rhetoric. And that's why you see certain memes being posted. And I see the same people. And the interesting thing is I've done this on social media. And it was generally with Facebook with people who I knew. I've got friends on the right side and friends on the left side. And it was interesting to see if I posted something that was pro-Republican, how the shares and the likes you would get. I could tell you exactly who was going to share it and who was going to like it. I can pick out from my friends list. These are the people that are going to share this and like this. And then it was the same thing. I would post a liberal meme that was pro left side. It was the same thing. You could pick out the people from the left side that would like this thing and share this thing. And that was the God's honest truth. And that is what is wrong. Stop trying to fit things to fill whatever fucking story you're telling. Stop doing that. Try to find the truth, the answer. That should be what you're trying to do. But most people don't want to do that because that takes one of the most difficult things on this planet, which is to say, I was wrong. Most people don't want to do that. They already have their mind made up. So I'm going to take these facts and I'm going to fill this story to fit whatever I need it to fit into. But when you do that, you don't have to admit I was wrong, which is the major problem. And I think that, if people were more willing to be like, hey, you know what? I screwed up. I made a mistake. I was wrong. Then it might solve some of it. But we've become so adamant because the other thing, too, is if you admit that you're wrong, the other side jumps all over that. Oh, well, you were wrong this one time. So now you're wrong all the time, which it's not the truth. Like, you're going to be wrong sometimes. It's one thing that Buzz does on the air. Whether it's me, Lisa, or Joanna, whoever it is, if you're wrong once, he'll continue to bring that up in an argument. Be like, oh, well, you were wrong this one time. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, you can be wrong a lot, but if you're wrong that one time, you made a mistake. You are human. That is going to happen. But unfortunately, that's not where we're at right now. So I'm just making a plea right now that if you're wrong, it's perfectly fine. But admit you're wrong, move on, find the right answer. Don't be wrong, refuse to say that you're wrong, and then find shitty facts or just like 2 or 3 that can, kind of make your point or whatever the hell it is you're trying to make. Like, just grow up. Which then leads to the final topic of today, which has to do with this article that I found, which, again, I'm willing to admit this right now. I haven't been able to fact check the article, but it comes from The Atlantic. And it says that teens are protesting in-class presentations. And it really just started with this one tweet where somebody tweeted, "Stop forcing students to present in front of the class and give them a choice not to." Guess what, kids? You do have a choice not to. But unfortunately, if you choose not to, that comes with a failing grade. And that's what life is about. You don't just get to pick and choose what you want to do. Like, if you have a class where you need to give a presentation, guess what? You're going to have to do that. Yeah, anxiety sucks. I've suffered with it for years and years and years. I've been on all kinds of medications to try to balance that shit out. It fucking blows. Anxiety is one of the worst possible things I can think of to wish on a person. Like, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But you got to be able to deal with it at some point. Hiding from it is not solving the problem. Hiding from it means that just the slightest amount of anxiety will seem like a gargantuan problem to you later in life because you never learned how to actually deal with that anxiety. So to say, oh, we need to give us an option to not have to present in front of the class. You do have the option. Don't do it. But you're going to fail. Like, that's the problem. And it's one of the things that I kind of see in a lot of people now. It's, people my age, in your 30s, 20s, and, even older people too, who just, you get so comfortable with certain things. You get so comfortable with life and how everything is kind of moving together that anything that kind of will throw that off really screws with you, and it makes you very uncomfortable. And it doesn't matter what it is. And like, I'm a perfect example of this. Like, I overplan everything. Like, I look at plan A through Z when it comes to things. Like, if this goes here, then I need to react this way. And that's how my brain works. That's how I think of solutions. That's how I think of problems. Everything. And it becomes a problem because I start to overthink everything. But I think it's also a problem that people aren't willing to do that, where they aren't willing to stop and realize, okay, well, if something does happen, how do I deal with that anxiety? How do I deal with that uncomfortableness? And that's the issue, is that, if you want to piss and moan and complain about how, oh, we don't have to do presentations, you know what? I say double it now. Make them do more. Because clearly you're not learning to deal with this anxiety. And that's the whole point of growing up, going to school, all of it. It's learning to deal with these simple emotions that humans have always had to deal with. This is nothing new. Humans have always had to deal with certain things, but you need to be willing to deal with them on your own and look at yourself and be like, hey, these are some weaknesses that I have. I need to be willing to work on this. And unfortunately, I think it's to the point now with a lot of people, it's I don't need to work on these weaknesses. The world needs to forget about my weaknesses, or the world needs to adapt to my weaknesses, which is wrong. It's you need to adapt your weaknesses to the world. You need to become stronger. The world doesn't need to become weaker to fit whatever you need to fit into. Um, Carnivore Eats says, what solves anxiety? Slapping Buzz with a fish. I'm not going to lie, like, that was a ton of fun. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to the KLAQ YouTube channel. And we made a bet on the Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl. And the bet was basically whoever lost got slapped in the face with a red snapper. And, man, I don't think he texted me. I think he may have texted me once during the game, like when the Patriots were getting blown out. And I think it had something to do with the fact of, hey, do you think we can get the fish before tomorrow's show or whatever? And he went to bed when I think the Falcons were up 28-3. And he didn't find out what the final score was until he woke up that following morning to come into work. So it wasn't that Monday that we did it. It was that Tuesday because we talked about it Monday, and then we went and bought the fish on Monday, and then it came in and got the slab. But you can actually see the fish slap here if you go to the KLAQ YouTube channel. It's right there for you. It's pretty glorious. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was a ton of fun, and we're gonna get some more bets and stuff like that coming up. But anyway, so that kind of wraps up this edition of the AfterBuzz. If you guys have any topics or anything that you would want discussed, but you can always shoot me an email. Brandon.Coates, Coates, at townsquaremedia.com. I'm looking for NHL teams. If you want to, recommend one, shoot me an email. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. But give me a reason why. Like, I want to know why. Like, the one that I've heard and the one that I still like is, like, with the Golden Knights, how they kind of, the way they drafted their team. I know the rules were different when it came to their expansion draft to other ones, and people were complaining that they were given too many good players. They still weren't expected to do squat. Like, if you go back and look at, like, every single NHL source at the beginning of last year, which was their inaugural season, they were picked to finish dead ass last. With the people that they put together, they were not expected to do anything, and they made a Stanley Cup playoff run, just ultimately losing to Alex Ovechkin. And, I might have to go with the Washington Capitals just because Alex Ovechkin is just fantastic. Like, that guy is absolutely hilarious. But I still don't know yet. Just, give me a reason as to why. And it could be as simple as that is, root for the Washington Capitals and send me, I've already seen them, but, it helps you make your point. Send me links of Alex Ovechkin being, doing keg stands and stuff like that on the Stanley Cup. So anyway, so on that note, have yourselves a great Wednesday. And again, if you guys have anything, hit us up on Facebook or the Twitter account as well. I think we're going to hopefully do some more Twitter polls here for Butt Stuff 69 morning show.